Hello there, what is going on, everybody? We've got a new Star Wars game being teased that is likely going to be fully announced and made official very, very soon from Days of Wonder, of all companies. Now, not necessarily a company that you would associate with Star Wars games, but they are under the Asmodee umbrella. You may know Days of Wonder from massively popular games like Ticket to Ride, Heat, Small World, Memoir 44, and others. They have made so many banger games and produce and distribute so many games that's it led a lot of people to see this and think, what is going on with this? We're going to talk about this in today's video, what it might mean, what it probably is, and a little bit of speculation, but we'll show you what we know and kind of share the hype a little bit, because new Star Wars games sound very fun, especially if it's going to be more of a board game style game. That's also very cool, because it might mean that maybe it's not a thing that you need to buy 10 expansions every month for. It could be a very cool thing. So if you guys haven't already, make sure you are subscribed. Leave a comment on this or one of my videos. That's going to enter you to win that $25 Amazon gift card giveaway that's running right now. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's simple as that. We're running that for about another week, so there's plenty of time left. You just will have to watch all the way to the end of my videos, because that's usually when I announce winners. So stay tuned for that. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this particular image. Now, Days of Wonder has teased this image on their socials, and it's very clear it's a Star Wars game. You've got Rebellion, or you've got Empire symbology on the cards. It's very cool. It does say, "Are you ready to choose a side?" It was really all that they've kind of said about this. However, this is just comes like a day or two after they had teased this image right here. That says, "It's freezing here. How about you?" This is from their social medias. This is the caption for this picture. Now, this one wouldn't have given away too many hints, other than the fact that at the bottom left-hand corner of this image, it does say Lucasfilm. So all of a sudden, eagle-eyed viewers were like, "Wait a second, Lucasfilm? Is that Hoth? Is this are these hexes? What's going on?" So then when you go back to these images, it kind of filled in the rest of the picture, because when you think Lucasfilm, you typically think Star Wars, although it could have been Willow or Indiana Jones or Monkey Island or something crazy, right? But no, definitely a Star Wars game. Now, when I first saw these cards, I'll tell you, the very first thing that I thought, Decipher's games. Initially, that was the first thing that came through my mind. As like, are they bringing back the original Star Wars CCG from Decipher? Are they doing something like that? I don't think that's the case now. But that was the first thought that went through my head. I'm not sure. Maybe it was wishful thinking. I think in recent months there's been more and more talk about the old Decipher games. I don't know if it's a combination of Star Wars Unlimited doing well, or just talking to people, or especially talking to people from Adepticon. I've had a lot of talked to a lot of different people who are familiar with the channel, a lot of people who wanted to share their Star Wars stories with me, and a lot of people got their gaming, or their first Star Wars gaming was this one. So initially, this was one of those things that I thought, I saw this image and I was like, wait, are they bringing back a Star Wars card game from Decipher? And again, I will admit that there's been a little bit of wishful thinking on that part. It could also be that this was a little bit of something along the lines of Rebellion, that it's not actually strictly a card game, as evidenced by the fact that we've seen hexes all over these cards and a hex map behind, and as well as this image with hex tokens. This has led a lot of people to believe that this is a Memoir 44 reskin into Star Wars, which I think is very likely. It could be that way. And it's possible that by the time you're watching this video, they may have already announced exactly what the game is. But I try to do things early enough, to get them out, but late enough to make them relevant. So it's always tricky to try to talk about breaking news when I publish things, only once a day. So So this is what we know, right? There's a new Star Wars game coming from Days of Wonder. Days of Wonder is under the Asmodee umbrella, so they're definitely allowed to make and produce Star Wars games. Now, Days of Wonder typically does board games, like single box board games, or board games that have expansions or different modules. It's also very likely that this could be an all new game altogether. However, I would probably lean towards more of it being a Memoir 44 inspired, using the Memoir 44 system. And if you're not familiar with Memoir 44, it's a Richard Borg game. It's a classic. It's been around for a very long time. Has a lot of content. Basically, it's a kind of a hex based two-player board game that has a lot of different scenarios, and it's all World War II scenarios, and you have a specific scenario where you're taking your force against somebody else's force. There's some card play involved, which of course leads to this, and there are also miniatures. There's also or at least tokens. I mean, I guess there's different ways to do it. You could do it with tokens. You could do it with miniatures. You could do it with a little bit of both. I've played it. It was a game I've had for a while, and it's a solid game. I haven't played it recently enough to be able to tell you exactly how it plays, but if I remember correctly, it was it captured a little bit of the feel of like a tabletop skirmish game while still being a board game, and it also played a little bit simpler. It used like D6s, and there was like, okay, if you roll this hit, then you kill the other unit, or you do damage to the other unit. And it was, I think combat was a little simplified. The card play could, add to that. And it could be a really cool way to finally do the Battle of Hoth. Regardless of what type of game engine it uses, if it uses a Memoir 44 system or if it uses a new system altogether, I think this represents a fantastic opportunity to create the most iconic battle in all of Star Wars, as far as at least ground battles, and that's the Battle of Hoth. We just don't have a game that can replicate that. Even Star Wars Legion can only replicate a very small skirmish aspect of that greater battle, and not really the battle as a whole. And that's something that maybe a game like this could do. And that's something that I'm hoping for. I've always wanted to see, AT-ATs on the battlefield, multiple AT-ATs, like 3, 4, or even 5 potential AT-ATs on a battlefield. Kind of slowly marching towards the rebel base, and the rebels scrambling, trying to do what they can. And imagine if you could actually do that. I think with tokens like this, it does seem to indicate that could be a thing. There's different ice formations that could build terrain. Looks like there's some wreckage, some weapon tokens, things like that. So definitely seems like that's going to be a thing. It sounds exciting to me. I'm also curious if this game is going to be exclusively Hoth. Is it going to be exclusively like the Battle of Hoth? Is it going to be exclusively icy battles, or is it going to be other things that are like this? Maybe Crate, maybe some Last Jedi battle type stuff, which is also kind of mostly white, could be very similar. Also had walkers and things like that. Or are we going to see like jungle tiles? Are we going to see other things like that? When I think big ground battles, though, I definitely think the Battle of Hoth, and maybe it's just going to be a Battle of Hoth board game. That could totally be the case. It could be very exciting either way. I'm looking forward to it. I love the idea of a new Star Wars board game, and I love it coming from different people too, because it gives me a chance to try a completely different flavor of Star Wars game. If it is based on Memoir 44, it should probably play fairly quick, and it could make for an excellent addition to a board game night. So I'm excited about this, and I'm curious if you are too. Let me know down in the comments if you've played Memoir 44. What are your thoughts on a Star Wars version of this? I'll tell you an interesting little story about Richard Borg and the Memoir 44 line of games. I live in Orlando, Florida, and I started my tabletop gaming hobby, like maybe 12, 13 years ago at a store called Sci-Fi City. here in Orlando. People in Orlando know this store who've been here for, it used to be NCC 1701 Games years ago, and eventually became Sci-Fi City in multiple different locations. It was Sci-Fi City, then it moved, and it was still Sci-Fi City, and it does not exist anymore. But when I would go there, I got there, I started playing X-Wing there, and we would play, and then about once a month or so, the timelines would sync that I would go there, and Richard Borg would also be there with all of his buddies, and they would be playing a massive game of Memoir 44. And he eventually also released a space game that was using like some similar aspects, also a grid system and stuff like that. And I remember from the days when this was being in development, being worked on and play tested and stuff, a lot of their ships, they would always use like Star Wars Armada ships, and they would always use a lot of Star Wars ships. So I think the whole group who made Memoir 44 were very largely Star Wars fans as well. So if this is indeed a Star Wars version of Memoir 44, I have to say chef's kiss. I think it's beautiful because it's great to see people who have been Star Wars fans actually be able to, assuming it's the same people that made it, that worked on it, that contributed to it. It's nice to see Memoir 44 actually get a proper Star Wars skin. I know people who have kind of run their own homebrew versions with the Memoir 44 rule set and made it Star Wars, but having kind of been in the neighborhood where the Memoir 44 games have been designed and play tested, and having met Richard Borg several times and always kind of just been in the background while they were, getting that whole thing going for years. For many, many years, it's exciting to see it get a Star Wars skin. So very happy to if this is the case. If it's something brand new or altogether new, then I'll be happy to learn about that as well. So that's my Richard Borg story. We would always call the group when they would show up, and they would need a lot of tables because they would do massive games. I'm talking like the hexes were like this big. Okay, they're massively oversized games. We would say we'd have to make room. We'd have to move to the other end of the store because the Borg Collective was coming in. That was the nickname we had for them. So a really great group of guys. Were always super friendly and always had a blast playing the massive, overly oversized games. It was a sight to see. Let me tell you. And let me know if there's any Orlando folks that remember the Borg Collective testing Memoir 44, doing the oversized games and having so much fun when they were doing it. It was really cool stuff. Let's go ahead and wind down the video at this point because whatever it is, I'm going to be excited. And also let me know in the comments if you remember the old Decipher Star Wars, collectible card game. Going way back to like the 1990s with this one, but it was a great time. It was a great time to be a gamer, a great time to be a Star Wars fan, and helped a lot of us cut our teeth on early Star Wars gaming. It's pretty cool stuff. Although this is probably, unrelated to the Days of Wonder game, but I wanted to throw it in there because that was my first reaction. All right, that's going to do it for today. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are amazing and help make this whole channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. And always wash your socks.